Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Apple has just released a brand new HomePod, and this is a pretty big deal because they discontinued the original big HomePod about 2 years ago now because it wasn't performing that well. Not that many people bought it. It wasn't taking up a lot of the market share of smart home speakers, and I totally understand why. Like in Canada, one of those HomePods is about $400, which is pretty crazy, and it definitely had a lot of limitations compared to other high-end smart home speakers, but it looks like Apple is going to try again. They just released yesterday the brand new HomePod that looks pretty much exactly the same as the old one. So this is the second generation full-sized HomePod. It's going to be priced at $300 US, so it is slightly cheaper. It's got a slightly different design, and it's got some new features that we're going to be talking about in this video that is hopefully going to make it a little bit more successful than their previous version. So the first thing we're going to talk about that has changed in this new HomePod is the processor that's powering it. So the new HomePod has the S7 chip that we saw in the Apple Watch Series 7, and the original HomePod was using an A8 chip from the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. So we got a pretty decent upgrade with the processor. It's not like a night and day difference, but it definitely is a lot better. And it's said that this new chip is going to really help with computational audio, which is a big win. Something that's really interesting with the new HomePod though is that it's got less microphones and tweeters. You would think since this is a new one that you would be getting more, but Apple's actually giving you less. So the new HomePod has 4 built-in microphones, whereas the previous model had 6. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess, because we don't know if the microphones are maybe higher quality, and maybe that's why they need fewer of them, or they just cheaped out and said, you know what, we're not going to put an extra 2 in there. I don't know, but it is kind of strange that they would remove 2 microphones. Now, like I said, they also removed some tweeters, so in the new HomePod, it's got 5 tweeters, and the original one had 7, and the tweeters are there to produce the upper range of sound when you hear music, and I just find it weird that Apple is removing stuff from this. Like, if you're gonna wait 2 years to bring this product back to market, you would think it's gonna be like a night and day difference. Like, this one is going to be the superior speaker, but it looks like they're removing things like microphones and tweeters in order to reduce the price on the new HomePod, which I totally understand because, like I said at the beginning of the video, when they first came out with the HomePod, it didn't do that well because of that high price tag. So what they did was they just took a few things out to reduce that cost, but then it might not be as good of a product, so I don't really know what the thinking was there, especially because the speaker is still expensive. It's not like you reduced the cost by half, you reduced it by like $50. Like, it's not really a big deal. I think if someone really wants a HomePod, they won't really care about $50, so I don't really know what the thinking was here. Like, if they really wanted this thing to be successful, they would really reduce that cost, maybe like $100, $150, but they didn't really reduce it by much, and they're taking a bunch of stuff out, so I don't really know what the thinking is here. Some of the tech in here could be advanced enough that they don't need as many parts and components in it to produce the same sound quality. I don't know because I haven't listened to it just yet, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the reviews are saying when it comes to sound quality, if it's the same as the old HomePod, better or worse. But I gotta admit, it is pretty strange that Apple is removing a bunch of stuff out of this. Now, another thing that's new is temperature and humidity sensing, and these new features are really interesting because it looks like it's only going to be available on the new larger HomePod, but then it's also available on the HomePod Mini, which a lot of people didn't even know about this, and it looks like it's going to be available with the software version 16.3, so that update should be coming out pretty soon. So only the big new HomePod and the HomePod Mini will be able to use these sensors. If you're someone like me that has the original larger HomePod, that kind of sucks because it is something that you want to have access to. Like, yes, it's nice to have features on smart home tech, but I don't think a lot of people are going to go out of their way to buy a HomePod for $400 because of a temperature and humidity sensor, but I could be wrong. Maybe some people really want this. I feel like it could be helpful in a lot of situations, but me personally, I don't think I would ever really use it. The sensors are supposed to measure indoor environments, allowing users to create automations that close the blinds or turn on a fan or heater automatically when a certain temperature is reached in a room, for example. Now, that is kind of cool, but I feel like you've got to have a really teched out home to be able to even use any of that. I feel like the average person is not going to have, you know, smart home blinds and all of that are going to be connected to the HomePod. It is cool, don't get me wrong, I just don't think a lot of people are going to be able to even use any of these features. Another new thing is that the new HomePod is going to have an easy detachable power cable, which of course was not available on the previous model. I'm not sure why, because on the old one it was built in and Apple recommended not to pull on it, but it looks like this one it is going to be easily detachable, so that's actually something pretty smart. So instead of booking booking an appointment at the Apple Store to get a replacement HomePod. Now it looks like users are probably going to be able to just replace the cord themselves, go home, swap them out, and done. The next new feature is a larger backlit touch surface. So if you guys remember on the old one, the circle, the little ring at the top, was actually pretty small, and it looks like the new HomePod is going to have a larger backlit touch display. So that's another cool thing. I don't really think it really changes that much though. Like, yeah, you can see the little Siri animation pop up and it's a little bit bigger, but that's really it. There's no information being shown on it or anything like that. There was a lot of rumors that Apple was planning on making a HomePod with a display similar to like a Google Home or some of the Alexa smart home devices. I think that would be really cool from Apple, but as of right now, we just have a larger display on the top of the HomePod that isn't really going to do anything new. So yeah, it's also got a lighter and shorter design, so the new HomePod weighs 5.16 pounds compared to 5.5 pounds on the original speaker. Once again, that is something that has been changed but doesn't really matter. Like, most people don't care how much their HomePod weighs. Everyone just places it on a flat surface and forgets about it, so that's not really an important difference between the new and the old one. The new HomePod also has Thread and a U1 ultra wideband chip, so that's the standard connectivity for smart home devices that improves connectivity by letting Thread devices talk to each other, which is a new feature because the original HomePod lacked Thread support. On the new speaker, it's also got the U1 ultra wideband chip, which detects when other U1 chip devices like a new iPhone are close by, and this will allow it to quickly hand off audio to the smart speaker. Now, I already find that my 14 Pro Max connects very quickly to my HomePod mini and my original HomePod, but it looks like on the new HomePod, the transfer between devices is just going to be a little bit faster. The one thing I'm really disappointed with though is that Apple is still not enabling Bluetooth connectivity. These HomePods sound so damn good, especially when you put them in stereo mode. Like, they sound phenomenal, and I just really wish Apple enabled this feature, because if you look at all of the other smart home speakers on the market, pretty much all of them allow you to connect to them and play your music, do whatever you want with it, and Apple just needs to bring Bluetooth to these speakers, because like I said, they sound so damn good, and it just really frustrates me that I can't connect whatever device I want to the speaker and start playing music. It's really frustrating. I hope they change that in the future. And one other thing that's pretty disappointing is it looks like you can't have a stereo pair with the old speaker and the new one. Apple is apparently not allowing that as of right now. That could change in the future, but if you're someone like myself that has the old HomePod and you're thinking of buying the new one, apparently you cannot have them sync together, which I think is a huge disappointment, because that means if I want to have a stereo pair, I've got to go out in Canada and spend $800 on a couple of HomePods when I already have one. Some weird decisions on this HomePod, guys. Like, it's essentially the same thing. Now, of course, I haven't heard what it sounds like, so it could be a little bit worse, it could be a little bit better, or it could be the same as the original model. But in a nutshell, not that much has changed on this. Like, yeah, it's got a minor design change, it's got a new chip, a larger display, it's a little tiny bit cheaper, and that's pretty much it. Like, I hope it performs a bit better sales-wise, but I just don't think at that price point a lot of people are gonna buy it, especially when you've got HomePod minis like the one behind me over here. That thing sounds really good, it's affordable, and if you're gonna go out and spend like $400 on a speaker that doesn't even have Bluetooth, I think you're asking a lot from some people. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the sales do for this new HomePod. They are set to release on February 3rd, so not too far away. Personally, I don't think I'll be picking one up because I don't really see the need to. It's not like miles better than the old one. Honestly, I think if you can find a used HomePod for a good price, I think you're better off getting one of those. Like, they sound so damn good. If you can get a couple of them when they're synced together, it is incredible, that sound. But yeah, guys, that is all of the new features that we're going to be seeing on the new HomePod that releases in about a couple of weeks now. Not that much has changed, but let me know down below if you guys are going to be picking one up for yourself. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. We talk tech pretty much every single week, and next week on the channel, I'll be unboxing the brand new 16-inch MacBook Pro powered by the M2 Pro chip. So that's going to be a really exciting video, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, guys, that is it. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.